All right, so today we're diving into a story about Klarna,
Oh, yeah.
the Swedish buy now, pay later giant.
Huge.
That you probably know,
Right.
but this isn't like the usual, we're going to talk about how great this fintech company is. They
Yeah.
kind of had a little bit of a run-in with the authorities, and we're going to break it all down for you.
Yeah.
So
Big time.
in this deep dive,
Huh?
we're using a recent article from FinTech Global,
Okay.
one of the leading sources for news in the fintech industry.
Absolutely.
So stick with us if you want to know what this all means for the
Okay.
future of payments. And
Uh-huh.
you know how companies navigate this sometimes very strange world of
Yeah.
financial regulations?
For sure, this is one to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Klarna was hit with a $46 million fine by Sweden's Financial Supervisory Authority,
Wow.
the FSA.
Okay.
And the issue is they haven't been doing enough to prevent money laundering and terrorist financing,
Right.
which are two huge concerns in the financial world.
Yeah. $46 million.
Yeah.
That's got to sting a little bit,
Big time.
even for a company as big as Klarna.
Yeah.
So for those of us who aren't financial experts,
Right.
can you break down what exactly these violations even mean?
Sure. So money laundering is basically taking dirty money from illegal activities
Huh?
and making it look clean,
Okay.
like it came from legitimate sources.
Got it.
Terrorist financing, as the name suggests, is providing funds that support terrorist activities.
Okay.
Both are serious crimes,
All right.
and financial institutions play a critical role in preventing them.
So big no-nos.
Huge.
But $46 million.
Yeah.
It almost feels symbolic to me.
Yeah.
Is that like a typical fine for this kind of thing? Or did Klarna get off easy?
It's significant for sure, but it's less than the maximum penalty.
Okay.
The FSA could have revoked Klarna's banking license,
Wow.
but they chose not to.
Okay.
Eric Blame, the director of money laundering supervision at the FSA, even said that while the violations were serious, they weren't severe enough for more drastic measures.
It's interesting.
But still, a $46 million message definitely gets your attention.
Yeah, that'll get your attention.
Yeah.
So this whole thing kind of makes me wonder,
Yeah.
is the fintech industry,
Mhm.
is it built on a foundation of sand when it comes to regulation?
Right.
I mean, Klarna is a leader in this space.
Absolutely.
So how did this even happen?
Yeah.
And what does it mean for, what's coming down the pike for the future of payments?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Because this case really highlights the growing pains of the entire fintech industry.
Yeah.
Klarna is a poster child for innovation in payments.
Right.
But this incident shows that even the most successful companies
Yeah.
are still figuring out how to balance rapid growth with strict financial regulations.
Yeah.
They're pushing boundaries, which is great,
Right.
but they also have to walk a tightrope.
Yeah.
And sometimes, as in this case, they stumble.
Yeah, so what does this mean for Klarna going forward?
Right.
Did they just apologize and promise to do better?
Well, they did acknowledge the issue and say they're committed to fixing it.
Yeah.
And they are working with the FSA to make the necessary changes.
Okay.
You have to remember, though, Klarna is planning to go public soon.
Oh, right.
This fine throws a wrench in their IPO plans.
Yeah.
Investors are going to be watching very closely to
Yeah.
see how they handle this.
Yeah, no investor wants to buy into a company
Right,
with, kind of a regulatory cloud hanging over it.
right,
Especially with something as serious as money laundering.
right.
This has got to be a PR nightmare for Klarna.
Exactly. They're trying to reassure everyone that they're
right.
taking this seriously
Right.
and committed to creating a secure financial environment.
Right.
Their spokesperson even emphasized this point.
Okay.
Whether that's enough to calm investor nerves, though, remains to be seen.
Right. So this all sounds very specific to Klarna,
Yeah.
but it makes me think, is this a sign of bigger problems
Right.
in the fintech industry?
That's the million-dollar question. As fintech companies push boundaries with innovative products and services,
Right.
regulators are often playing catch-up.
Yeah.
This constant tension between fostering innovation and ensuring security
Mm-hmm.
is at the heart of this case.
So it's like a high-stakes game of cat and mouse.
Yeah,
Totally. Innovators pushing forward, regulators trying to rein things in.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, they both want a safe
Yeah,
and stable financial system.
exactly right. And that's where things get tricky.
Yeah.
How do you balance encouraging groundbreaking innovation
Mm-hmm.
while also making sure it's not happening at the expense of security?
Right.
This case with Klarna shines a light on that tension.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's fascinating to me about this whole thing is this incident with Klarna.
Yeah.
It's actually part of a much larger trend.
Really?
Regulators all over the world,
Okay.
not just in Sweden,
Uh-huh.
they're really starting to scrutinize fintech companies.
Mm.
I see.
Especially when it comes to this whole AML compliance issue.
Right.
We're seeing similar actions in the US, in the UK, all across Europe.
Wow.
It's a global phenomenon.
That's interesting. So why this sudden crackdown?
Mm-hmm.
Is fintech just inherently riskier than traditional finance?
It's not necessarily sudden.
Okay.
And it's not just about fintech being risky.
Okay.
Regulators have been worried about money laundering in finance for decades.
Right.
But the rise of fintech has definitely intensified those concerns.
I see.
Think about it.
Okay.
Fintech companies, they're disrupting traditional financial models.
Got it.
They use new technologies, they target new customers, and they often operate across borders.
Right.
All of this creates new opportunities for financial crimes,
Uh-huh.
and regulators are trying hard to catch up.
Yeah, I'm starting to see the challenge here.
Yeah.
But wouldn't stricter rules like potentially stifle the very innovation that makes fintech so exciting in the first place?
Right.
It's almost like we're asking these companies to walk a tightrope
Totally.
between, pushing boundaries, but also playing by the rules.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a real dilemma.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have these amazing innovations that could revolutionize how we handle money.
Right.
But on the other hand, you have the potential for those innovations to be exploited
Right.
for criminal activity. The key, I think, is to view regulations as guardrails,
Okay.
not roadblocks.
I like that.
Clear rules can actually help create a level playing field,
Okay.
protect consumers, and build trust in the industry.
Right.
That's good for everyone,
Yeah.
even the innovators themselves.
So it's like setting some ground rules so that everyone can play the game fairly
Exactly.
and without fear of getting blindsided.
Right.
So how do you think Klarna is handling all this pressure?
Well, they've publicly admitted the issues the FSA brought up, and they seem to be taking steps to fix them.
Okay.
They're putting money into improving their AML compliance systems. They're working closely with the regulator, but, and this is a big but
Yeah.
they still have that IPO looming over them.
Right.
Only time will tell if their efforts will be enough to satisfy the FSA and reassure those skittish investors.
Right. This is where things get really interesting to me.
Yeah.
How much will this fine actually affect Klarna's IPO?
Right.
Will investors just shrug it off, or will this make them run for the hills?
It's hard to say for certain.
Okay.
Investors are looking for companies with huge growth potential,
Uh-huh.
but they also want responsible governance and a commitment to following the rules.
Right.
This incident raises some red flags that Klarna needs to address if they want to have a successful IPO.
So there's a real chance that this could scare off investors.
Yeah, for sure.
What can Klarna do to mitigate the damage?
Transparency is key.
Okay.
They need to be totally upfront with investors about the issues, the steps they're taking to fix them,
Okay.
and what they've learned from this whole ordeal.
Got it.
They need to prove that they're not just checking boxes.
But truly committed to doing things the right way.
Right.
That kind of honesty and commitment can go a long way in rebuilding trust.
It's like they need to show that they've learned their lesson
Right.
and are serious about changing their ways.
Exactly.
But what about the other players in the fintech space?
Right.
What does all of this mean for them?
It's a wake-up call, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Klarna's experience shows that no company, no matter how big or how successful,
Right.
is immune to regulatory scrutiny.
Yeah.
If you're in the fintech world, especially if you're dealing with payments or transactions, you need to make AML compliance a top priority.
Okay.
It's not just about avoiding fines, it's about building a sustainable and trustworthy business.
So the takeaway is play by the rules or risk facing the consequences.
More than that,
Okay.
it's about making compliance part of your company's DNA.
I see.
Build it into your processes, invest in training, and stay informed about the latest regulations.
The fintech landscape is constantly evolving,
Yeah.
so you need to be proactive, not reactive.
That sounds like a lot to keep up with.
It is.
Is there any good news for fintech companies trying to navigate this complex world?
Absolutely. Let's not forget that fintech is still a dynamic and exciting industry with enormous potential.
Okay.
The key is to view compliance as an opportunity, not a burden.
I love that reframing compliance as a positive thing.
Yeah.
How do you see that playing out in practice?
Imagine a world where fintech companies are not only innovative, but incredibly secure and trustworthy. A world where customers feel confident using these new financial products and services without worrying about fraud or shady dealings. That's the potential we're talking about.
Okay.
And getting there requires collaboration between companies, regulators, and consumers.
Okay, so it's not just about cracking down on the bad guys.
Right.
It's about creating a system where everyone wins.
Exactly.
Companies can innovate, consumers can feel secure,
Yeah.
and the whole financial system becomes more robust and trustworthy.
Exactly. And that's why this whole Klarna situation, even though it's negative on the surface,
Right.
could actually be a catalyst for positive change in the industry. It's a learning opportunity for everyone involved.
So before we move on to what the future might hold for fintech,
Okay.
I have one last question about this whole tension between innovation and regulation.
Right.
How can fintech companies navigate that tightrope effectively?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And it really boils down to building a culture of compliance within your company.
Okay.
It needs to be everyone's responsibility, not just something the legal team worries about.
Got it.
Integrate compliance into every stage of developing your products and services.
Right.
Foster transparency.
Okay.
And make sure everyone understands the importance of doing things by the book.
Yeah.
When you can shift the mindset from viewing compliance as a chore to seeing it as a key ingredient for success, that's when you unlock real potential.
It's about turning what seems like a constraint into a competitive advantage.
Totally.
And the companies that can pull that off will be the ones leading the way in the future of finance.
Absolutely.
So we're back. And now it's time to kind of like look into the crystal ball a little bit. We've talked about, Klarna's misstep, the pressure on the whole fintech industry.
Yeah.
But where do we go from here?
Right.
What are some of the scenarios that could play out?
That's where things get really fascinating.
Yeah.
There are so many paths this could take, both for Klarna and for the whole fintech landscape.
Right.
Klarna especially is at a crossroads right now.
Yeah.
They're trying to go public, but now they have to deal with the fallout from this fine.
Right.
Their next moves are critical.
So let's play a little what if here.
Okay.
What's the best case scenario for Klarna?
Okay.
How do they come out of this looking like winners?
The ideal scenario is that Klarna takes this as a serious wake-up call. Not just a slap on the wrist. They immediately address those issues the FSA pointed out.
Right.
And they go above and beyond to build a rock-solid AML compliance system.
Okay.
They're completely transparent with investors, showing them exactly how they're fixing things.
Right.
And proving their commitment to responsible growth.
Okay.
If they do all, the investors might see this as a temporary stumble, not a sign of deeper problems. Klarna could still have a successful IPO,
Right.
maybe at a slightly lower valuation, but they'd be in the game.
That's the happy ending.
Right.
But let's be a little bit more realistic here.
Okay.
What happens if they don't nail the landing?
Things could get messy.
Uh-oh.
What if investors think Klarna's efforts aren't enough?
Yeah.
Or that they're dragging their feet?
Right.
The IPO could be delayed or even canceled entirely.
Wow.
All this negative press could hurt their brand, making it harder to attract new customers and partners. In that scenario, Klarna has a long road ahead to regain its momentum.
So best case, they recover gracefully.
Right.
Worst case, it's a real struggle.
Yeah.
Is there a middle ground somewhere between those two extremes?
Absolutely. Imagine Klarna makes real progress on compliance.
Okay.
Satisfying the FSA, putting out the immediate fire.
Right.
But some investors are still nervous.
Okay.
And they end up going public at a lower valuation than they hoped for.
Right.
Not ideal, but it lets them access public markets and keep growing, even if it's a bit of a humbling experience.
So Klarna's fate is still very uncertain.
Right.
But this isn't just about one company, right?
Right.
What kind of ripple effects could this have on the whole fintech industry?
This could be a turning point for fintech regulation.
Oh.
We already know regulators are taking a closer look, but this situation with Klarna could really accelerate that trend.
I see.
Expect stricter AML compliance rules,
Okay.
tougher background checks on customers, and more active monitoring of what fintech companies are doing.
Okay.
This will make things more challenging for startups,
Right.
especially those working in areas that are considered high risk.
So more hoops to jump through, more rules to follow. Sounds like the Wild West days of fintech might be coming to an end.
Yeah, it might be.
But you've said before that you see this as a potentially good thing.
Yeah.
How do stricter regulations actually benefit the industry?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
Clearer regulations can actually make the fintech ecosystem healthier and more sustainable in the long run.
Okay.
Stricter rules can weed out the bad actors,
Right.
protect consumers, and build trust in the entire sector. And when people trust fintech, that can attract more serious investors and lead to wider adoption of these new technologies. It's about creating a system that's both innovative and trustworthy.
Okay, so maybe this is less about stifling innovation and more about laying a solid foundation for future growth. So if we imagine this new era of fintech regulation, what are some specific changes we might see?
One big shift could be the increased use of technology for AML compliance.
Oh, interesting.
Regulators are looking to AI, machine learning, and big data to improve their surveillance and identify suspicious activity more effectively.
Wow.
Fintech companies that embrace these technologies will be better equipped to navigate this evolving landscape.
So it's not just about following the rules.
No.
It's about using technology to do it smarter and faster.
Exactly. This could lead to a boom in what's called RegTech.
Okay.
Innovative compliance solutions designed specifically for fintech companies. It could be a huge opportunity for both established players and startups to develop these cutting-edge tools.
Sounds like we're about to see a whole new side of fintech.
Totally.
One that's focused on building trust and stability.
Right.
Before we wrap up, I have to ask,
Yeah.
what does all this mean for everyday people who use fintech products and services? Should we be worried about this shift towards stricter regulations?
I think the takeaway for consumers is that the industry is growing up.
Okay.
Increased scrutiny from regulators is a good thing. It means they're working to make sure fintech companies are behaving responsibly and protecting your data.
Okay.
So instead of being worried, you should be encouraged.
I like that.
It means the industry is maturing and becoming more reliable.
Yeah.
Of course, it's always important to stay informed.
Right.
And choose fintech providers that have a good track record when it comes to security and compliance.
So stay informed, choose wisely, and don't panic.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on what this all means for the big picture?
Sure.
The future of finance?
I'm incredibly optimistic about the future of fintech.
Yeah.
Yes, there are challenges, but this industry has the potential to revolutionize the way we manage our money, making it more accessible, more transparent, and more efficient.
Okay.
But to get there, we need everyone on board.
Right.
Innovators, regulators, and consumers, we need to work together to build a system that's innovative, responsible, and benefits everyone.
I love that vision.
Yeah.
Innovation with responsibility. That's something we can all get behind.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of fintech.
My pleasure.
It's been a fascinating journey, and we'll be back next week with another thought-provoking topic.
That's good.
Until then, keep exploring and keep asking those big questions.